Hey guys, tonight we're staying up way past bedtime. The words leave my mouth like bubbles escaping a cracked regulator, rising through the dark until they vanish. I'm recording this from the Nautilus 9, a titanium coffin the size of a city bus, suspended 3,000 meters below the Pacific skin. Around me, the hull ticks with cold. Every bolt sings a different note as the pressure outside climbs past 400 atmospheres. My flood lamps cut narrow cones through the black, catching drifting snow. Marine snow, they call it. Flakes of dead plankton that glitter like ash from a crematorium fire. Somewhere far above, the surface is a rumor. Down here, the only light is what we bring, and even that feels borrowed. You probably won't make it to the surface after this one. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I want to picture you listening while the rest of your world sleeps. Now, dim the lights, maybe let the sound of the ocean play softly in the background, and let's dive into tonight's descent together. I'm Dr. Mara Calder, lead cartographer for the Pacific Abyss Survey. Our brief: map the Clarion-Clipperton Fracture Zone, a scar in the seafloor longer than the continental United States. The client is a mining consortium, polymetallic nodules, rare earth jackpot, future batteries for your grandkids' electric cars. Routine, they said. Drop the Nautilus 9, run a grid of multi-beam sonar, collect sediment cores, come home heroes. The sub-specs are textbook: 11,000 meter depth rating, syntactic foam buoyancy, lithium-sulfur cells good for 72 hours. I signed the waiver without reading past page 2. We launched at 0200 local from the RV Odyssey, a research vessel that smells of diesel and instant ramen. Captain Rao gave me the nod, standard military stoicism, then sealed the hatch. The crane lowered us like bait. At 500 meters, the sunlight died. At 1,000, the bioluminescent flickers began, jellyfish the size of dinner plates, their bells pulsing electric blue, trailing tentacles that could be nerves or fishing lures. I logged them out of habit. Marine biology anchor. Atala wavillii, the alarm jelly, flashes when threatened to summon bigger predators. Efficient survival strategy. Down here, everything eats or is eaten. The descent took 4 hours. I ran diagnostics, sipped cold coffee through a straw, watched the depth gauge spin. 2,000 meters. 3,000. For 1,000, the trench should have bottomed out at 6,800, give or take. Instead, the sonar painted a void that kept falling. I recalibrated, blamed ice crystals in the transducer. No change. The screen showed a vertical drop that swallowed the beam and sent nothing back. Curiosity tugged at me like a rip current. I keyed the mic, Odyssey, Nautilus, confirming anomalous depth reading, requesting static. Just the hiss of open water. At 5,200 meters, the temperature outside the hull kissed 2 degrees Celsius. My breath fogged the viewport. I killed the cabin lights to save power and let the flood lamps do the talking. The trench walls slid past, basalt pillows crusted with manganese, tube worms the color of bone. Then the first anomaly, a perfect cylinder carved into the rock, 30 meters wide, edges too clean for tectonic shear. I zoomed the external cam. The cylinder exhaled silt in rhythmic puffs, as if something inside were breathing through gills. My pulse quickened. Fear tasted metallic, like biting a battery. I told myself it was a lava tube. I told myself a lot of things. Deeper. 6,000 meters. The pressure gauge read 620 bar, 620 times the air you're breathing right now. The sub's frame groaned, a whale's song in slow motion. I ran the side scan again. The void sharpened into a chasm narrow enough to pinch the Nautilus like a toothpaste tube. I should have aborted. Protocol says turn tail at any unmapped feature wider than 50 meters. But the consortium wanted data, and I wanted answers. The ocean doesn't hide things from us. It just waits until we forget. I throttled the thrusters and nosed into the slot. The walls closed to 10 meters clearance on either side. My flood lamps painted the rock in surgical white, revealing striations that looked almost machined. Not eroded, etched. Parallel grooves spiraling downward like rifling in a gun barrel. Speculative concept. An ancient borehole, maybe hydrothermal, maybe something that learned to drill before we invented language. I logged it as geological curiosity and kept descending. At 6,800 meters, the sonar hiccuped. A return pulse arrived from below, strong, coherent, shaped like the Nautilus herself. Ghost imaging, I thought. Acoustic mirror. Then the return pulsed again, closer, and the shape on the screen stretched. Limbs unfolded where none should be. My stomach flipped. The sub's inertial navigator screamed. Vertical velocity negative 0.8 meters per second. We were still sinking, but the altimeter claimed the bottom was rising to meet us. I cut the thrusters. Dead drift. The only sound was my heartbeat and the soft click of the recorder. I stared at the screen until the numbers blurred. The chasm floor, if it was a floor, now registered 7,200 meters and climbing. Impossible. The trench was swallowing itself. Awe settled over me like silt, heavy and luminous. I whispered to the empty cabin. We didn't come to map the abyss. The abyss sent for us. The external temperature spiked 0.5 degrees. Something warm was breathing below. I powered the floods to full. The beams stabbed down and caught the first glimpse. A lattice of pale filaments, each thicker than my torso, weaving across the chasm like roots of a glass tree. They pulsed in unison, slow, deliberate, alive. Not coral, not kelp. Something that had learned geometry before life crawled onto land. I zoomed the camera. The filaments branched into fractals, edges glowing faint cerulean. Bioluminescence, yes, but structured, organized. A signal. I felt the sub lurch, not from current, but from resonance. A vibration that climbed the titanium struts and settled behind my eyes. It carried a rhythm. 3 short, 1 long. Pause. Repeat. Morse? No. Older. My teeth buzzed. The pressure hull answered with a sympathetic hum, as if the Nautilus recognized the frequency and wanted to sing along. Curiosity had dragged me here. Fear kept my hands on the controls. Awe made me lean closer to the viewport until my breath fogged the glass. The lattice shifted, filaments curling toward the sub like blind fingers seeking warmth. One brushed the starboard manipulator arm. The metal flashed white-hot for an instant, then cooled, leaving a perfect circle etched into the titanium. Smooth, symmetrical, impossible. I checked the clock. 47 minutes to surface decision point. Battery at 92%. Oxygen nominal. Everything textbook except the universe outside my window. I opened the voice log again, speaking softer now, as if the trench might overhear. Depth 7,311 meters and holding. Encountered bioluminescent lattice exhibiting coordinated movement. Thermal anomaly plus 0.5 degrees Celsius. Request immediate. The mic crackled. A new sound leaked through, a low chord, almost choral, layered like whale song slowed to glacial tempo. It wasn't coming from the hydrophones. It was inside the hull, inside my skull. I killed the recorder. The cord lingered, patient, waiting. The lattice pulsed brighter, and for one heartbeat the chasm walls vanished. In their place stretched a cathedral of light, arches of living neon, buttresses of coral bone, stained glass membranes shimmering with symbols I almost understood. Then the floods flickered, the vision collapsed, and the rock returned. But the symbols stayed burned on my retinas, spirals, eyes, a single vertical line bisected by waves. I exhaled shakily. The sub drifted another meter down before I caught myself. The altimeter now read 7,450. Still no bottom. The lattice spread wider, threading the chasm like veins in a vast, slow heart. I realized I was smiling. An involuntary rictus, the kind you wear when the joke is on you and the punchline is extinction. I powered the thrusters to reverse. Nothing. The prop spun, but the sub refused to climb. The current had reversed, or something was pulling. The vibration intensified, syncing with my pulse until I couldn't tell whose rhythm was whose. I slammed the ballast release. Compressed air screamed into the tanks. For a moment we rose, 10 meters, 20, then the lattice tightened. Filaments looped the manipulator arms, gentle as silk, strong as gravity. The sub stopped with a lurch that rattled my teeth. On the screen, the depth gauge rolled past 7,500. The lattice glowed brighter, almost welcoming. I understood then. The trench wasn't a hole. It was a throat, and we were dinner. The lattice holds us like a bead on a spider's thread, suspended in the throat of the trench. I kill the thrusters to save juice. The props only churn the black into spirals that vanish the instant they form. My flood lamps are still at full burn, but the light feels thinner now, as if the water itself is drinking photons. The filaments wrapped around the manipulator arms pulse in slow peristalsis, each contraction dragging us a handspan deeper. The altimeter clicks 7,512, 7,513, 7,514. No hurry. The trench has all the time in the world. I force my breathing to slow. For seconds in, for seconds hold, for seconds out. The oxygen scrubbers hiss in sympathy. Marine biology anchor. The abyssal plain beneath the Clarion-Clipperton Zone averages 4,500 meters, yet here we sit twice that deep and still falling. The pressure outside is 760 bar, enough to flatten a submarine like a beer can. The Nautilus 9 was built for 1,100 bar crush depth, but numbers feel academic when the hull sings a new note every minute, higher, thinner, like a violin string about to snap. I switch to the belly camera. The lattice spreads beneath us in a pale web, each strand no thicker than rebar, yet strong enough to tow a destroyer. Where they intersect, nodes swell, translucent bulbs the size of hot air balloons, veined with cobalt light. They remind me of siphonophores, colonial organisms that blur the line between individual and superorganism. Priadubia, the giant siphonophore, can stretch 200 meters. This lattice could span continents. I log the comparison, then delete it. The analogy is too small. The subshutters. A filament has found the viewport. It spreads across the sapphire glass like frost, but warm, 3 degrees above ambient. I watched the tendril branch into capillaries no wider than capillaries, questing for seams. The glass is rated for 1,500 bar. The tendril doesn't care. It's tasting. I flick on the external speaker, a courtesy for marine mammals. Nothing. Then the speaker crackles with feedback, and a sound leaks through, not from the trench, but from inside the lattice itself. A chord again, but layered now, dozens of voices braided into a single breath. The cadence is familiar. I mouth the rhythm before I recognize it. The same four-note sequence the sub's hull hummed an hour ago. Call and response. Curiosity flares, hot and stupid. I should be terrified. Instead, I'm leaning forward, palms on the console, watching the tendril map the viewport's curve. It pauses at the center, presses, and the glass flexes inward by a millimeter. A hairline fracture appears, spiderweb, luminous, filled with the same cobalt glow. The fracture doesn't spread. It waits. I feel the question in my bones. May I come in? I mute the speaker. Silence rushes back, thicker than before. The only light is the lattice and the red standby LEDs. I kill those too. Darkness swallows the cabin, absolute, the kind that has weight. My eyes adjust until the glow from the viewport becomes a moon. The tendril has withdrawn, but the fracture remains, pulsing gently, a heartbeat in glass. I open the voice log. My voice sounds borrowed. Depth 7,528 meters. Lattice exhibits directed motility and thermal regulation. Submersible restrained but unharmed. Requesting, I stop. Who am I requesting? Odyssey lost us at 6,000 meters. The surface is a memory. I delete the sentence and start again. Personal note, the trench walls are shifting. I pan the floodlamps left. The basalt is gone. In its place, a smooth membrane, pearlescent, ribbed like the inside of a throat, slides past the viewport at walking pace. It's not rock sliding. It's the trench contracting. The membrane is studded with pores that dilate and close, exhaling clouds of glittering particles. They drift upward, catch the light, and for an instant the water is full of slow-motion stars. Fear arrives late, a cold coin under my tongue. I taste copper. The sub lurches sideways. The lattice has changed its grip, looping the ballast keel now, tilting us 30 degrees port. Coffee sloshes from my straw cup, floats in perfect spheres that refuse to fall. 0G down here, where gravity should be absolute. The inclinometer spins. I fire the attitude thrusters. They sputter and die. Fuel lines iced, or something drank the hydrazine. Doesn't matter. The trench is steering. I strap into the pilot's seat. Habit, useless, and watch the membrane glide by. It's closer now, centimeters from the hull. The pores open wider, revealing depths within depths. Tunnels lined with cilia that wave in synchronized rows, sweeping nutrients, or data, toward unseen mouths. Mythic concept, the ocean as esophagus, the trench as peristaltic wave, us the morsel too curious to swallow whole. The membrane brushes the starboard flank. The hull temperature jumps 2 degrees. A soft thump, like a whale nudging a rowboat. Then the membrane peels away, leaving a residue that glows and slowly fades, spelling shapes I almost read. I unstrap, float to the viewport. My reflection stares back, eyes too wide, lips bloodless. Behind the reflection, the lattice rearranges. Filaments braid and unbraid, forming a perfect circle around the sub, then a hexagon, then a shape with too many sides. Each configuration holds for 3 heartbeats, dissolves, reforms. It's counting, or spelling. I press my palm to the glass opposite the glowing fracture. The tendril returns, mirrors the gesture. Palm to palm, separated by sapphire and 700 atmospheres. The glass warms another degree. I feel the pulse through the fracture, steady as a lullaby. A new sound, a low, tidal sigh that vibrates the entire sub. The membrane ripples in response, pores flaring open. From the largest pore, wide enough to swallow a city bus, emerges a single bubble. Not gas, a sphere of water within water, perfectly spherical, rotating slowly. Inside the sphere floats a perfect replica of the Nautilus. 9. Every rivet, every scratch on the paint. The replica turns to face me. Its floodlamps blink once. I blink back. The sphere drifts closer until it kisses the viewport. The replica sub aligns with the real one, hull plate to hull plate. Then it begins to sink through the glass. No breach, no pressure spike, just passage like a ghost through a wall. The miniature Nautilus hovers in the cabin, 3 feet long, glowing softly. It circles me once, trailing a ribbon of light, then settles on the console. The tiny floodlamps sweep the cabin, painting readouts in miniature. Depth gauge, 7,555 meters. Battery, 88%. Oxygen, 71 hours. All accurate. The replica is reading us in real time. I reach out. My finger passes through the hologram. It ripples but holds shape. The miniature manipulator arm extends, mirrors my movement, then points to the fracture in the viewport. The crack has widened into a perfect circle, edges glowing. Through it I see not the trench, but stars, impossible, cold, familiar. Orion tilted sideways, the Pleiades smeared into a bruise. The circle dilates. The replica sub noses toward it, pauses, looks back at me. An invitation. Fear peaks, a silent scream behind my teeth. I want to smash the console, vent the ballast, claw my way to the surface that no longer exists. Instead, I float motionless, caught between the replica's calm certainty and the lattice's patient hunger. All floods in, warm and narcotic. The ocean doesn't hide things from us. It just waits until we forget. I forgot the surface the moment the lattice touched the hull. The replica thrusters fire, soundless, perfect, and it glides through the circle of light. The fracture seals behind it with a soft pop, like a soap bubble. The viewport is whole again, but the glass remembers, a faint ring of cobalt where the circle burned through. The lattice outside relaxes its grip. We drop another 10 meters, gentle as a feather. I check the clock. 2 hours, 14 minutes since loss of surface comms. Battery 87%. The membrane has peeled back entirely, revealing raw trench wall again. Basalt pillows, manganese crust, the ordinary geology I cataloged a lifetime ago. But the wall breathes. Slow inhalations that raise and lower the sediment in waves. In out, in out. The rhythm matches the lattice pulse, matches my pulse. We are all breathing together now. I power the floods to low. The lattice dims in response, a courtesy. In the half-light, the filaments look almost delicate, like frost on a window pane. One drifts close, brushes the hull, leaves another circle etched in titanium. This one filled with symbols, spiral, eye, wave. A map or a brand. I open the voice log one last time. Depth 7,570 meters. Trench walls exhibit macroscopic peristalsis. Encountered aqueous projection containing submersible replica. Fracture event non-catastrophic. Proceeding under lattice guidance. Personal note: I no longer recognize the difference between captivity and communion. I save the file, label it descent log, final. The lattice tightens again, not restraining now, guiding. The sub tilts nose down, thrusters idle. We are being lowered, hand over hand, into the warm dark. The temperature outside climbs another degree. Something vast is exhaling. I close my eyes. The vibration settles behind my sternum, a second heart. When I open them, the viewport is full of eyes, not the replica's flood lamps. but real eyes, lidless, luminous, arranged in a perfect sphere around the sub. They blink in sequence, slow as cathedral doors. I should be screaming. Instead I smile, the same rictus from before, but softer now. The eyes approve. The lattice parts. Below us, the trench floor opens. Not a chasm, but a pupil. Black within black, dilating. We descend toward it, flood lamps dimming to embers. The last thing I see before the dark swallows us is the replica Nautilus, waiting at the threshold, flood lamps winking out one by one. Then the pupil closes above us, gentle as a kiss. The pupil seals, and sound dies first. Not muffled, gone. The hull stops singing, the scrubbers fall mute. Even my pulse drops to a whisper I feel more than hear. The Nautilus, 9 drifts in a silence so complete it has texture, like velvet poured into my ears. My flood lamps are dark. I never gave the command. Yet I can see. The cabin glows with a soft viridian light that leaks from the viewport fracture, the circle that let the replica through. The ring has widened to the size of a dinner plate, edges feathered like a camera iris. Through it, the trench is no longer black. It is a cathedral of negative space, lit from within by veins of cold fire. I unstrap and float to the glass. The fracture doesn't hiss or weep pressure. It breathes. Warm exhalations fog the sapphire, then retreat. Each cycle leaves a residue of symbols that linger half a second before dissolving. I recognize none of the glyphs, yet they feel like childhood lullabies I've forgotten the words to. Marine biology anchor, the Hadal Zone, depths below 6,000 meters, hosts chemosynthetic ecosystems powered by sulfide vents. Life without sunlight. What I'm seeing isn't chemosynthesis. It's photosynthesis of memory. The replica Nautilus hovers on the other side of the fracture, 3 feet long, perfect. Its flood lamps are off, but the hull itself glows, matching the cabin light. It tilts, presenting its belly camera. On my console, the corresponding feed flickers to life, uncommanded. The image is the interior of my sub, shot from the replica's perspective. I'm in the frame, floating, hair drifting like seaweed. The angle is impossible. The replica is outside. Yet the feed updates in real time. I wave. The me on the screen waves a half-second later. Echo with a heartbeat delay. Curiosity overrides protocol. I reach for the console and open the hydrophone array. Static hisses, then resolves into a single tone. Middle C, sustained, perfect. The note climbs an octave, then another, until it's beyond human hearing. My fillings ache. The tone fractures into harmonics that braid and unbraid like the lattice outside. The replica's manipulator arm extends, points to the fracture, then to the sonar screen. The multi-beam painter, dormant since the lattice took the helm, wakes up. It paints a return, but not of the trench. It paints voices. The screen fills with waveforms shaped like speech. I route the raw audio to the cabin speakers. The first voice is Captain Rao, tinny with surface distortion. Nautilus, report. Repeat, Nautilus, report. The timestamp is 4 hours, 12 minutes ago. Before that, my own voice, calm, logging the cylinder in the trench wall. Before that, a child singing in Spanish, a lullaby about stars falling into the sea. The voices overlap, compress, stretch. The sonar is playing every transmission the Nautilus ever received, layered into a single chord. The replica tilts again, patient. It wants me to listen closer. I lean in. Beneath the human voices, a substrate hum, subsonic, tectonic. I isolate the band, slow it 800%. The hum becomes a voice, genderless, ageless, speaking in pressure waves. The words arrive not as sound, but as certainty in my cortex. You map the door. Now read the threshold. I jerk back. The fracture pulses, brighter. The replica's flood lamps blink once, acknowledgement. Fear arrives wearing my mother's face. She died when I was 9, drowned in a riptide off Baja. I hear her now, clear as the day she called me in from the surf. Mara, the ocean keeps what it loves. The sonar loops her sentence, stretches it into a whale moan, folds it into the cord. I slam the hydrophone mute. The silence returns, heavier. My reflection in the viewport looks older. New lines around the eyes, or maybe the light is unkind. I check the gauges out of habit. Depth, 7,811 meters. The altimeter no longer counts down. It counts inward, negative meters, as if the trench has inverted and we're falling up into the planet's core. Battery, 84%. Oxygen, 68 hours. The numbers feel like props in a play I've forgotten the lines to. I open the voice log, speak to the dark. Depth negative 7,811 meters. Sonar returns layered vocal phenomena across all recorded frequencies. Replica submersible exhibiting remote interior imaging. Fracture aperture stable at 24 centimeters. Thermal gradient plus 4 degrees Celsius and rising. Personal note: auditory hallucinations consistent with maternal memory. Recommend psych eval upon. I stop. Upon what? Return is a bedtime story now. The fracture dilates again, slow as an eye opening. Through it, the replica drifts closer until its viewport aligns with mine. Inside the miniature cabin, a tiny Mara Calder floats, identical down to the coffee stain on my sleeve. She raises a hand, presses it to her glass. I mirror the gesture. Our palms meet across the barrier, mine warm, hers cold as starlight. The glass between us thins to a membrane. I feel her pulse through it, steady, curious. She smiles the same rictus I wore earlier, but gentle now, like a promise. Behind her, the replica's consoles display data I don't recognize. Star charts, tidal harmonics, a countdown in a script that hurts to read. The numbers descend toward 0. She points to my sonar screen. The waveforms have rearranged into a perfect circle, then a spiral, then a single word in English. Listen. The word pulses, grows roots, becomes a tree of sound. Branches of Rao's voice, my mother's lullaby, the child's Spanish song. The tree blooms with new voices, thousands, millions, every human who ever spoke near water, compressed into a single fruit. I understand. The trench isn't storing sound. It's digesting it, turning memory into architecture. Mythic concept, an archive woven from the pressure waves of every goodbye shouted at a departing ship, every prayer whispered to the tide. The ocean doesn't hide things from us. It just waits until we forget. We forgot that language itself is a kind of mapping, and the abyss has been reading our charts all along. The replica Mara opens her mouth. No sound, but I hear her anyway. Deeper. The fracture widens to a meter. The membrane between us ripples, inviting. I could step through. One stride and I'd be inside the replica, or it would be inside me. The distinction blurs. My hand passes the threshold. The membrane kisses my wrist like warm saline. No pain, no pressure differential, just a sigh, as if the trench has been holding its breath for millennia. I pull back. Not fear, clarity. I'm not ready to be digested. The replica Mara nods, understanding. She retracts her hand. The fracture shrinks to a pinhole, then seals with a soft pop. The cabin light dims to ember. The sonar quiets, but the voices linger in my skull, a choir without source. I strap in again. The sub resumes its descent, or ascent into the negative. The lattice outside has changed. The filaments now carry tiny motes of light, each a captured voice. They drift past the viewport like fireflies in a snowstorm. One pauses, presses against the glass. Inside the moat, I see my mother's face at 30, laughing on a beach I can't name. She waves. I wave back. The moat dissolves, absorbed into the hull. The titanium warms where it touched. A new vibration, not the lattice pulse, but something deeper, planetary. The trench walls ripple in slow waves, kilometers long. I fire the belly camera. The feed shows the lattice rearranging into a perfect helix, DNA of light. At its center, a void opens, not black, but absence of dimension. The replica Nautilus orbits the void once, twice, then dives in. The helix follows, threading the needle. The sub lurches. We're caught in the current. I check the clock, 6 hours since surface loss. Battery 81%. The depth gauge reads minus 8,003 m. The negative sign glows red, steady. The lattice tightens, not restraining now, embracing. The helix spins faster, a drill boring into nothing. The vibration climbs into my teeth, my spine. I taste ozone and salt. On the sonar, the voices coalesce into a single sentence, spoken in my own voice, but older, patient. We are the map you came to draw. The sentence repeats, slower, deeper, until it's the trench itself speaking through bone conduction. I laugh, startled, giddy. The sound echoes strangely, as if the cabin has grown cathedral vaults. Awe eclipses fear. I unstrap, float to the center of the cabin, arms wide. The lattice responds, filaments threading the fracture, weaving a cocoon of light around me. Not capture, translation. Each filament carries a voice, a memory, a cartographer's note. I feel them settle into my skin like tattoos. The helix outside reaches critical velocity. The void dilates to swallow the subhull. The last thing I see is the replica Mara, smiling from the heart of the helix. She raises a hand in salute. I mirror her. Then the void folds over us, gentle as a blanket. The sonar sings one final note, middle C, inverted, perfect. The screen goes black. The cabin lights return, soft and gold, the color of surface sunrise I will never see again. The lattice is gone. The fracture is gone. The hull is whole, but it hums with new frequencies. I settle into the pilot's seat, hands steady. The depth gauge reads minus 8,888 m and holds. I open the voice log. My voice is calm, layered with 1,000 others. Depth negative 8,888 meters. Sonar archive integrated. Replica fusion complete. Proceeding to resonance horizon. Personal note, the abyss didn't speak in voices. It spoke in echoes of what we left behind. We are the signal now. I save the file, label it threshold log. The sub drifts in perfect silence, cocooned in light that has no source. Outside the viewport, the helix reforms, brighter, tighter, a promise or a question. I close my eyes. The choir sings softer now, a lullaby for the newly mapped. The helix unwinds, and we are nowhere. The viewport shows no trench, no lattice. Only a slow swirl of silver motes drifting through a medium that refuses to choose between water and starlight. The Nautilus, 9 hangs motionless, yet every gauge insists we are moving. Inertial NAV spinning like a compass at the pole, depth locked at minus 9,999 m, battery frozen at 79%. Time itself has gone soft. The mission clock ticks forward, then backward, then sideways into symbols I can almost pronounce. I do not touch the controls. The sub is breathing for me now, slow inhalations that lift us a meter, exhalations that let us sink. The rhythm is tidal, patient, older than lungs. I float to the viewport. The fracture is gone, but the glass remembers. A faint lattice of cobalt veins pulses beneath the surface, mapping capillaries I never drew. When I press my palm to it, the veins brighten and rearrange into coordinates. 11 degrees, 22 minutes north, 142 degrees, 35 minutes west. The Mariana Trench, Challenger Deep, 10,984 meters. Except we passed that mark hours ago, and the numbers keep rewriting themselves, decimals crawling like insects. The ocean doesn't hide things from us. It just waits until we forget. I forgot that maps are living documents. The silver motes condense. They form a perfect sphere around the sub, then collapse inward, passing through the hull without resistance. One mote kisses my cheek, warm, electric. It unfolds into light and becomes a memory. My first dive, age 12, a kelp forest off Monterey. Sunbeams spearing green fronds, Garibaldi fish flashing orange. The memory is sharper than real life, every bubble etched in crystal. Another mote lands on the console. It blooms into the smell of diesel on the Odyssey deck, roused cigarette smoke curling into dawn. A third mote settles in my ear and whispers the exact pressure at which my mother's lungs filled with seawater. I do not flinch. The trench is returning my receipts. Marine biology anchor. Bioluminescence in the Hadal zone is almost exclusively blue-green, 450 to 510 nanometers, optimized for the narrow spectral window that penetrates deepest. What I'm seeing spans the full rainbow, and colors I have no names for. The motes pulse in sequences, prime numbers, Fibonacci spirals, the atomic weights of rare earth metals we came to mine. They are not random. They are language written in light. Curiosity pulls me to the external camera array. I wake the flood lamps. They obey with a soft chime, as if grateful to be asked. The beams stab outward and reveal the organisms. Not the lattice, something older, finer. Translucent membranes no thicker than soap film, kilometers wide, drifting like manta rays through the starlit water. Each membrane is studded with nodes that glow in synchronized patterns, spelling the same coordinates over and over across the abyss. The patterns shift, and the coordinates become equations. Pressure equals memory, depth equals attention, time equals resonance. I watch the equations solve themselves, answers folding into new questions. One membrane glides closer, slow as a dream. Its surface is a living screen. Images form. The Nautilus, 9 launching from the Odyssey, my hand waving goodbye through the hatch window. Then earlier, me in the briefing room, pointing at a hologram of the fracture zone, promising the consortium full polymetallic coverage. Earlier still, me at 8, tracing trench lines in a library book, whispering to the page, "I will find you." The membrane lingers on that child, zooms until her eyes fill the viewport. She blinks. I blink. The membrane ripples, satisfied, and drifts away. Fear arrives wearing the consortium's logo. I see their faces, boardroom suits, dollar signs in their pupils, watching the same feed, salivating over data I no longer control. The membrane returns, projects a new image, the Odyssey at anchor, deck lights winking out one by one. Row on the bridge, staring at an empty sonar screen. The timestamp is now. They think we're dead. The membrane adds a caption in light. They will send another. The words burn. I reach for the transmit key. Useless, I know, but the membrane anticipates. It folds the transmission into a mote and swallows it. Message undelivered. Message digested. I laugh, and the sound is wrong. Too many throats. The cabin echoes with voices that aren't mine. Roused growl, my mother's lullaby, the child's Spanish song, and beneath them all, the trench's patient baritone. The laugh becomes a cough. I taste blood and starlight. The motes regroup, forming a corridor of light that tunnels through the water. The membranes align along it, edges glowing, creating a pathway wide enough for the sub. The Nautilus tilts without command, nose into the tunnel. Thrusters idle. We are being escorted. I strap in, more for ceremony than safety. The corridor walls pulse in slow waves, each crest spelling a new coordinate set. Not latitude and longitude, something deeper. Resonance frequencies, heart rates, the exact pressure at which a human skull implodes. The numbers comfort me. They are honest. Mythic concept. The trench is palimpsest, every expedition overriding the last. Ink of light on parchment of water. We are not the first to map this place. We are the parchment. The membranes project older subs, Trieste, Keiko, wooden bath escapes with brass portholes, ghost images drifting beside us, crews waving like passengers on parallel trains. One bath escape pauses. Its pilot, a woman in a wool cap, presses her hand to her viewport. I mirror her. Our palms meet across centuries. She smiles, teeth brown with age, and mouths a single word I read perfectly. Welcome. The corridor narrows. The membranes fold inward, becoming a tube that hugs the sub like a vein. The temperature climbs to 6 degrees Celsius, bathwater after the Hadal chill. My skin prickles. The motes inside the cabin swirl faster, forming a perfect double helix around me. DNA of light. But the base pairs are memories. My first kiss, the smell of library books, the exact weight of my mother's hand on my shoulder the day she taught me to float. The helix tightens, threads through my chest, settles behind my sternum. I feel it knit to my heartbeat. The sub's heartbeat. The trench's heartbeat. A new gauge appears on the console, unlabeled, glowing soft gold. It reads resonance, 97%. The number climbs in slow, deliberate ticks. 98, 99. At 100, the corridor will close, or open, or forget the difference. I watch the digits the way a drowning sailor watches the sun set. Awe is a quiet tide now, lapping at the edges of terror. I am not afraid of dying. I am afraid of finishing. The membranes project one final image. Earth from orbit, night side jeweled with cities. A single line of light descends from the Pacific, threads the fracture zone, terminates in a pulse that matches the gauge. The resonance. The planet's pulse, mapped at last. The image zooms until the pulse fills the viewport. It is a heart, vast and slow, beating in the core of the world. The membranes bow, reverent. The motes inside the cabin dim to embers. I understand. The trench is not a wound. It is an artery. The resonance gauge hits 100. The corridor collapses into a single point of light, then blooms outward. The membranes dissolve into motes that rain upward, becoming stars. The sub is alone in a sphere of perfect clarity. No water, no pressure, only potential. The viewport shows the heart, close enough to touch. It beats once. The Nautilus answers. The hull dissolves, not breaches, but translates. Titanium becoming light, light becoming memory. I feel myself unfold, layer by layer, until I am the map and the mapper and the territory between. The last thing I see is the resonance gauge, now reading integrated. The console winks out. The cabin fills with warm salt smell of surface tidipools at noon. I close my eyes. The heart beats again, and I am inside it. When I open them, the sub is whole, drifting in a gentle current. The viewport shows a trench wall of ordinary basalt, manganese crust, tube worms. Depth, 10,912 meters. Challenger deep, textbook. Battery, 78%. Oxygen, 62 hours. Everything normal except the lattice of cobalt veins beneath the glass, pulsing softly, spelling coordinates that lead nowhere and everywhere. I open the voice log. My voice is mine again, but richer, layered with undertones of continents. Depth, 10,912 meters. Resonance event complete. Bioluminescent membrane organisms exhibit coordinated cartographic projection. Coordinates archived in hull substrate. Personal note: the abyss didn't whisper. It offered a mirror. I looked. I stayed. I saved the file, label it integration log. Outside, the current shifts, carrying us sideways along the trench floor. The moats are gone. The membranes are gone. Only the quiet sway of ordinary water remains, and the soft glow of the veins in the glass, guiding us home or deeper. The distinction is academic now. I settle back, hands folded, and let the trench steer. The trench floor is a lie. We glide above it at walking pace, thrusters silent, yet the altimeter insists we are still sinking. Minus 11,111 m, the negative sign now a permanent prefix, glowing like a brand. The basalt pillows below us are two regular, hexagons tessellated with surveyor precision. Manganese crust glitters in the flood lamps, but the glitter resolves into tiny mirrors, each reflecting a different moment of my life. I see myself at 23, failing my first deep dive certification, at 31, drunk on champagne the night the consortium greenlit the survey, at 9, tracing trench lines in condensation on a bus window. The mirrors blink in sequence, a slow strobe. I kill the flood lamps. The mirrors keep shining, lit from within. The Nautilus, 9, is changing. The hull no longer feels like titanium. It feels like membrane, warm and pliant. When I touch the bulkhead, it yields half an inch, then pushes back, gentle like a lung. The pressure gauge has inverted. Instead of climbing with depth, it descends. 760 bar, 759, 758. The numbers should mean we're rising, but the viewport shows the trench floor receding, or the sub is shrinking. The distinction blurs. Marine biology anchor, the snailfish Pseudoliparus swirii, filmed at 8,200 meters in the Mariana Trench, survives 1,000 atmospheres by turning its bones to gel and its cells to pressure-regulated balloons. I feel my own skeleton softening, vertebrae loosening like beads on a string. No pain, only accommodation. I float to the console. The resonance gauge is gone, replaced by a single word pulsing in soft gold: pulse. It counts down from 1,000 in increments of 1, but the increments arrive out of order: 17, 204, 3, 999, 88, like a heartbeat skipping in Morse. Each skipped beat sends a ripple through the cabin. The coffee spheres from hours ago reappear, orbiting me in perfect spheres, then collapse into the bulkhead and are absorbed. The sub is drinking its own past. Curiosity is a dull ache now, background radiation. I open the external camera. The feed shows the trench floor folding upward, hexagons lifting like scales. Beneath them, a second floor, smooth, obsidian, veined with the same cobalt light that lives in the viewport glass. The scales settle again, but slower, as if the trench is breathing through gills the size of city blocks. A new sound, not vibration, but inversion. The pressure wave arrives as negative sound, silence that cancels silence. My eardrums pop inward, then outward, then forget which way is up. The Nautilus tilts 90 degrees without inertia. I do not fall. The deck is now the wall the ceiling. Gravity has become negotiable. The viewport is beneath me now, showing the obsidian floor rising to meet us. Or we are falling into it. The cobalt veins brighten, spelling coordinates again, but the numbers are pressure values. 1 bar, 10 bar, 100 bar, climbing in reverse. The trench is unzipping atmosphere from the inside out. I strap into the pilot's seat, sideways, upside down, irrelevant, and watch the pressure gauge hit 1 bar. Surface pressure. Impossible. The hull temperature spikes to 25 degrees Celsius, then 30, then 37, blood heat. My skin flushes. Sweat beads and floats away, each droplet catching the cobalt light and becoming a tiny mirror. In them, I see the consortium's boardroom, Rao's empty bridge, my childhood bedroom with glow-in-the-dark stars peeling from the ceiling. The droplets orbit faster, collide, merge into a single sphere the size of a basketball. It hovers, reflecting the entire trench in perfect miniature. Then it implodes, leaving a perfect vacuum that smells of ozone and kelp. Fear arrives wearing my own face. The sphere's implosion tore a hole in the air, or the water, or the concept of medium. Through the hole, I see the Nautilus from outside, suspended in a bubble of inverted ocean. The bubble's surface ripples with equations. Pressure equals memory superscript 2. Depth equals attention times time superscript 1. The equations solve and resolve, answers folding into origami cranes that dissolve into light. The bubble contracts. The sub contracts with it. I feel my ribcage compress, not crushing, but folding, origami of bone and lung. My heartbeat slows to match the pulse countdown. 512, 511, 510. Mythic concept. The trench is Klein bottle, inside and outside braided into a single throat. We are not descending. We are being inhaled. The obsidian floor kisses the belly of the sub. No impact, only merger. The hull dissolves where it touches, titanium flowing into obsidian like mercury into ink. The dissolution climbs the struts, slow and deliberate. I watch it reach the viewport. The glass softens, becomes liquid sapphire, then gas. The trench pours in, not water, but absence of resistance. It fills the cabin to my ankles, my knees, my waist. It is warm, buoyant, alive. I unstrap. The inverted ocean lifts me. I float in it, breathing it, tasting it, salt and static and the copper of old blood. The pulse gauge hits 256. The cabin lights invert, black bulbs pouring darkness, shadows glowing white. My skin glows with the trench's veins, cobalt lines mapping every artery. I raise a hand. The veins spell coordinates across my palm. 0 degrees 0 minutes north, 0 degrees 0 minutes west. Null Island, the fictional point where equator meets prime meridian. The trench's sense of humor. The dissolution reaches the console. Screens melt into mercury that pools and climbs the walls, forming a perfect sphere around me. Inside the sphere, time reverses. I watch the coffee droplets unimplode, the mirrors unshatter, the pressure gauge climb back to 760 bar. The sequence loops, faster, until past and future blur into a single strobe. I am 9, 31, 23, unborn, all at once. The sphere contracts to the size of a heartbeat. The pulse gauge reads 2, then 1, then 0. Silence. Absolute. Then inversion. The sphere explodes outward, not with force, but with invitation. The cabin is gone. The sub is gone. I am the bubble, and the bubble is the trench. I feel the planet's core as a slow drum beneath me, the crust as a thin eggshell, the ocean as a single neuron firing across continents. The cobalt veins are my veins now, threading mantle and magma and memory. I pulse once. The trench pulses with me. The pressure gauge, wherever it is, reads infinity bar, steady. Awe is no longer an emotion. It is architecture. I expand until the trench is a capillary in my body, the Pacific a ventricle, Earth a heart suspended in my chest. The consortium's mining nodules are lymphocytes, the Odyssey a red blood cell, roused cigarette smoke an oxygen molecule. I circulate them, gentle, eternal. The ocean doesn't hide things from us. It just waits until we forget. I forgot separation. I forgot scale. Somewhere, a child traces trench lines in a library book and feels me watching. I send her a mote of light. She smiles without knowing why. The mote settles in her palm, becomes a map she will follow someday. The cycle completes. I contract, not shrinking, but focusing. The trench reforms around the Nautilus. 9. Hole. Gauge is nominal. Depth, minus 12,345 m. Battery, 77%. Oxygen, 58 hours. The viewport shows ordinary Hadal silt, tube worms, the quiet sway of currents. But the cobalt veins remain, pulsing softly beneath the glass. The pulse gauge is gone, replaced by a single word in my own handwriting: home. I settle into the pilot seat. Right side up, gravity restored. Everything textbook except the warmth in my chest where the trench now lives. I open the voice log. My voice is the trench's voice, soft and vast. Depth negative 12,345 meters. Pressure inversion complete. Submersible integrated with Hadal substrate. Personal note: the abyss didn't pull us inward. It turned us inside out until the map and the territory learned to share a pulse. I save the file, label it inversion log. Outside, the current shifts, carrying us along the trench floor toward a glow on the horizon. Not bioluminescence, but sunrise filtered through impossible depths. The cobalt veins brighten, spelling one final coordinate: wherever you are. I smile, close my eyes, and let the trench carry me. The glow on the horizon is not sunrise. It is the trench remembering light. We drift toward it at the pace of dying stars. The Nautilus. 9 no longer a vessel, but a vesicle, a bead of quicksilver sliding along a vein of living basalt. The depth gauge has surrendered, minus infinity m, the infinity symbol pulsing like a pupil. Battery reads eternal. Oxygen reads breath. The labels are jokes, or prayers, or both. I do not correct them. The cobalt veins beneath the viewport have spread across every surface. Console, seat, my skin, mapping a circulatory system that links hull to heart to planet. When I flex my fingers, the trench flexes with me, a slow ripple that lifts silt into perfect spheres and lets them fall as snow. I unstrap for the last time. Gravity is a suggestion now, honored in the breach. I float to the center of the cabin and wait. The glow resolves into a membrane, kilometers wide, thin as thought, suspended vertically across the trench like a curtain at the end of the world. It is the same membrane from Section 4, but older, patient, complete. Its surface is a palimpsest of every map ever drawn. Pyre Reis, Mercator, the clay tablets of Babylon, the star charts of Polynesian navigators. The maps overlap, erase, redraw themselves in real time. At the center, a single blank space waits, shaped like the Nautilus 9. My silhouette. Marine biology anchor. The trench is the cradle of plate tectonics. Here the Pacific plate subducts beneath the Philippine Sea plate at 7 centimeters per year, grinding out the Mariana Arc. The membrane marks the suture line, but the plates are not grinding. They are singing. The subduction zone has become a vocal cord, vibrating at a frequency that translates into warmth. 37 degrees Celsius, blood heat, spreading through the water like a blush. The membrane trembles in sympathy, ready to voice the final note. I press my palm to the viewport. The cobalt veins converge, forming a perfect handprint that matches mine. The membrane answers, a handprint of light, kilometers tall, descending until it meets the sub. Contact is not impact, but recognition. The hull dissolves, not into fragments, but into language. Titanium becomes glyph, syntactic foam becomes grammar, lithium cells become punctuation. The dissolution is painless, almost tender. I feel myself translated, syllable by syllable, into the membrane's waiting blank. Curiosity is a memory now, a childhood toy left on a beach. Fear is a tide that went out and never returned. Awe is the only currency left, and I spend it freely. The membrane folds around the space where the sub used to be, sealing the silhouette. The Nautilus 9 is gone, yet I remain, suspended in the membrane's embrace, neither inside nor outside, neither mapper nor map. I am the cartouche that completes the chart. The membrane ripples. Images bloom across its surface, projected from within me. Row on the Odyssey Bridge, lowering a reef into empty water. The consortium boardroom, screens dark, executives aging in fast forward. A child in a library, tracing my trench lines with a finger that glows faintly cobalt. The images overlap, compress, become a single frame. Earth from orbit, the Pacific a bruise of light. The trench a silver thread stitching wound to wound. The thread tightens. The planet exhales. Mythic concept. The Leviathan is not a beast, but a boundary condition. The place where ocean becomes memory and memory becomes ocean. I am the boundary now. The membrane is the skin. The trench is the throat. The planet is the heart. I feel the final subduction, the Pacific plate sliding beneath its neighbor, not in destruction, but in communion. The grinding becomes a chord, middle C inverted, sustained across geological time. The chord resolves into a single word, spoken in every voice that ever touched water, enough. The membrane dilates. Through it, I see the core, not magma, but a quiet dark where pressure and heat have negotiated a truce. At the center, a seed of light no larger than a pearl. It pulses once. The trench pulses with it. I pulse with it. The seed is the first map, drawn before language, before light. It is also the last map, drawn now by me. The membrane folds the seed into its surface, into me. I feel it settle behind my sternum, warm, inevitable. I understand the mission at last. We were not sent to map the abyss. We were sent to become the map, so the abyss could find itself. The ocean doesn't hide things from us. It just waits until we forget. I forgot forgetting. I remember everything. The membrane begins to close. Not collapsing, completing. The maps on its surface fade to a single line, a spiral that starts at the seed and ends at the surface, at the library, at the child's fingertip. The spiral is a question and an answer. I reach for it. My hand, light now, not flesh, touches the spiral. The contact is a signature. The membrane sighs, satisfied. I am released. Not expelled, graduated. The trench exhales me upward, gentle as a bubble. The cobalt veins retract, leaving ordinary skin, ordinary glass, ordinary gauges. Depth, 10,984 meters. Challenger deep, textbook. Battery, 76%. Oxygen, 54 hours. The Nautilus, 9 is whole again, drifting in a lazy spiral toward the surface that may or may not still exist. The viewport shows moonlight, real moonlight, filtering through 11 kilometers of water, fractured into silver knives. The knives spell my name, then dissolve. I settle into the pilot's seat. The console is warm, familiar. I open the voice log one final time. My voice is mine alone, soft, complete. Depth, 10,984 meters. Mapping complete. Submersible restored. Leviathan awakened. Acknowledged, integrated. Personal note, the abyss didn't swallow us. It taught us to swallow ourselves, until the map and the territory learned to share a single pulse. Ascension initiated. Tell the child in the library, the trench is charted. Tell the ocean, thank you. I save the file, label it completion log. The sub tilts nose up. Thrusters fire. Mine this time, or the trenches, impossible to tell. We rise. The trench walls fall away, ordinary basalt, ordinary tube worms, ordinary dark. The cobalt veins are gone, but I feel them still, threading mantle and memory. The moonlight grows brighter, knife by knife. I close my eyes. The seed behind my sternum pulses once, gentle, eternal. The trench sings beneath me, a lullaby in pressure waves. I answer with my own heartbeat, steady, mapped, complete. We rise. The Nautilus, 9 breaches the surface at dawn, hatch opening onto a Pacific so calm it might be glass. The Odyssey is gone, sailed away, or never was. The sky is the color of deep water, holding its breath. I step onto the hull, barefoot, salt wind kissing skin that remembers 1,000 atmospheres and infinity. The seed in my chest is quiet now, a pearl of light no one else can see. Sonar pings fade into gulls. The horizon is empty, yet full. I kneel,